Hello, BookTube. This is it, part 18 of Science Fiction and Fantasy, the grand finale of my 2020 library tour. It's been an exhausting month going through all of my books. So let's get started, and then tomorrow we'll do something new. So first up, we have C.J. Cherryh's Fortress in the Eye of Time. Poul Anderson's The Shield. Marion Zimmer Bradley's Web of Darkness, one of the Darkover novels, I think. Almost Infamous by Matt Carter. This is a superhero novel in which the main character becomes a supervillain. And he and a group of other young villains are sort of recruited by the heroes to sort of restart sort of this competition between heroes and villains. Most of the villains have been locked away, and the heroes need somebody to fight. And it comes out that the heroes are as bad as the villains. And I thought the book had some good parts, but for the most part I didn't particularly care for it. The Vor by B. Caitlin. This is a new weird alternate history novel that it's hard to explain. I didn't particularly get on with this book. Steve Donahue highly recommended it, but it didn't really do much for me. Next is Breath of Earth by Beth Cato. Love that cover. The Broken Eye by Brent Weeks. This is book 3 in the Lightbringer series. The Very Best of Fantasy and Science Fiction, edited by Gordon Van Gelder. This came out about 10 years or so ago, and features some really great science fiction and fantasy stories. Especially it set me on to the Gunslinger by Stephen King. And also Deathbird by Harlan Ellison. And we have The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Obviously this is the granddaddy of fantasy, one of the greatest works of fantasy ever, and brilliant book. This is the Chamber of the Heretic by Catherine Kurtz. Then we have The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Picked that up from the Friends of the Library Books on Nook. That particular edition of The Lord of the Rings I picked up from Goldin's because I was going to take a class on The Lord of the Rings, but I ended up dropping it before, I think either before I actually started or something. The King's Buccaneer by Raymond E. Feist. Quag Keep by Andre Norton. Behind the Walls of Terra by Philip Jose Farmer. Another highly rated work of fantasy, A Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin. I have a complicated history reading relationship with this book. I first read this book as, I want to say late teen, I want to say it was like my summer before I went off to college. And I enjoyed it. Some of the perspectives I liked more than others. Although I nearly bailed when Ned Stark lost his head, but I stuck with it. But I've come back to this book a few times since then, and I haven't quite gotten on with it, which is probably more its size. The Song of Ice and Fire books are enormous, and the various point of view characters are of varying quality and interest. Of course, that's one of the selling points is you might not like this character or that character, but there are these characters you will like. But anyway, so this is Son of the Shadows by Juliette Marillier. But it's been a while since I've read A Song of Ice and any of the Ice and Fire books. So this is the first book in the Thorn of Ditton Hill series by Marshall Ryan Maresca, The Thorn of Ditton Hill. This is the second book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, A Clash of Kings. In the crappy current cover, I much prefer the older covers. Now we have some China Medieval. The Scar, this is the second of the Boss Log novels. Brilliant book. It's about really sailing into the unknown in what one hopes that unknown will bring. It's about Bellis Coldwine, a linguist who is forced to flee New Crobuzon, and she's eventually taken in by this floating pirate city called Armada, whose rulers are seeking to raise a being from another world for unknown purposes. And it is a fantastic book. I love this book. Took me a little while to get into, though. But when I did, it is amazing. This is the first of the Boss Log novels by China Medieval, Perdido Street Station. One of the, I think, foundational books of the New Weird. Probably one of the greatest works of New Weird. This is the story of Isaac Dander Grimnebulin, who's a sort of rogue scientist who is approached by Yagaric, a Garuda who has been mutilated for a crime. He was mutilated for raping another Garuda, and he is seeking to fly again. And this pursuit of how to help this Garuda fly again is the catalyst for all sorts of chaotic crap that goes on, and it is glorious. I love the book. China Medieval does have a bit of a struggle with conclusions. He never quite satisfactorily ends a book, though. But the rest of the ride's great. This is Aragon by Christopher Paolini. Picked this up from the Friends Library Book Sale Nook, and I've never actually bothered to read it. This is Hawkmoon by Michael Moorcock. It's a bind-up of 4 novels. It's part of the Eternal Champion series. Here's the third and final book in the Boss Log series, Iron Council. This one's not as good as the other two. It's about a rebellion in New Crobuzon and a train city of former New Crobuzon workers returning to the city to aid in this rebellion. All the while, New Crobuzon is at war, for which they are having indifferent success. Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller. This is a near-ish future ecological science fiction set in the city of Quanok, which is a floating city of oil rigs, in which a woman arrives riding a killer whale seeking revenge and to find her family. I love the city of Quanok. I think the city building is amazing. The story itself is a bit disappointing. I've said repeatedly my favorite character is basically serves as sort of an information inseminator and then promptly killed off once he served his purpose. And the main antagonist is it's really unsatisfying in the end. I mean, so yeah. Next up we have, I have 2 books by Peter McLean. Priest of Bones. This is the first book of the War for the Rose Throne series. It's basically about it's Thomas Piety, who's gone to war and returns to a city to establish his criminal empire, bringing along his what's left of his squadron, and eventually they rise back up to power in the city with the help of the Queen's Secret Service, of which Thomas Piety was a low-ranking associate of. In the sequel, Priest of Lies, this sees a continuation of the simmering conflict from the first book, but in this case, it's also Thomas Piety sort of becoming a Queen's man in his own right, and of dealing with the infiltration of the city by a rival nation state. Next up, I love both of those novels, and I'm looking forward to the third book, which should be coming out sometime this year. Although I'm probably going to have to order it from Book Depository since I'm not seeing it on Amazon quite yet. Anyway, next book is A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. I have mixed emotions about this book. The conclusion is phenomenal. How everything comes together in this final scene is it's brilliant. But I'm not entirely fond of the world building, particularly the main character, Mahit. She is too young for her position, too inexperienced, And also, you would think an embassy would have a larger staff than that. But yeah. And some of the getting to the conclusion, I don't think quite works all that well. So I don't know. I mean, I have the sequel on pre-order, and I'm kind of waffling between whether or not I want to keep the book or just, I don't know. Next is An Accident of Stars, Book 1 of the Manifold Worlds by Foz Meadows. Then we have In the Company of Ogres by Ailey Martinez. The Many-Colored Land by Julian May. A Book of Tongues by Gemma Files. The other two books in the Gormenghast trilogy. Gormenghast. Love that cover. And Titus Groan. Oh. Both by Marvin Peake. Next we have Toll of the Hounds, yet another book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series by Stephen Erickson. And we have two, well, for the moment at least, duologies. Hidden Sun by Jane Finn. And the sequel, Broken Shadow. I thought Hidden Sun was phenomenal when I read it last year, but I didn't quite get on with Broken Shadow. But I mean, I've had a hard time with any sort of fiction this year, so that could be that reason. I'm going to give it like a year or so, and then I'm going to come back to it, and hopefully my opinion will change. In a similar situation to Hidden Sun and Broken Shadow are the final two books of this part of, Lost Gods by Maka Yongo and Pale Kings. I read Lost Gods late last year and really enjoyed it. Read the sequel, Pale Kings, and didn't quite get on with it. Again, I've had difficulty with fiction reading this year. So hopefully I will come back to both novels, both duologies at some point, maybe later next year or the year after, and hopefully I will enjoy the sequels as much as I enjoy the first volumes in both duologies. Anyway, BookTube, this concludes my 2020 library tour. I don't think I will be doing this again next year unless something radical happens in my personal library, or I definitely need to do this earlier. Maybe I might start it in November or late October rather than all in December, because I haven't been able to do many tags or anything else. So anyway, BookTube, I will see you tomorrow with hopefully a tag. There's some tag necromancy going on that I want to do, that I've seen going around, that I want to do. Also, there's a Daydreaming 2021. Obviously it's my goals for 2021, and also weekly reads, of which there will be many rants. So until tomorrow, BookTube, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Happy New Year for those of you who've already hit the New Year. And for the rest of you, have a great afternoon and rest of 2020. And thank goodness, this crap of a year is over. Until tomorrow, BookTube, thank you and stay safe.